I look at that as in society, when you have an issue and you want to speak out on it, let it be your voice and your one voice joined together as a whole voice to say to the government, man, we really need to make a change. Y'all with me on that? Yeah. Jamil, JC.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. What this rally is about. It started off as a rally in a response to the George Zimmerman verdict, but it's more than just that. It's more than just about one child losing his life. How many children have to lose their lives? How many times do we have to be up here in this repetitive cycle, going around and around and around? How many rallies do we have to finally do something as far as hitting the foundation of the system to shake it up and rebuild it? And it's not just about deaths, it's about life. It's about everybody who's out here right now. It's about what they want to do to Monroe Park, as far as like shutting that down for a little bit to reconstruct Monroe Park. It's about that. It's about people who are locked up now due to injustice. Marissa Alexander, it's about that. It's about not just death, but justice and equality. That's what this rally is about. That's what it's about. And that's why we're all here right now. Because if there's no justice, like they said, no justice, no peace. And we have to stand up. We have to stand up for something. And if you're not standing up for something, then you're just a part of the system. If you are a part of the system, then we're going to be right back here in a couple of months for another young man who was unjustly killed. So with this said, that's why we're here for this rally. So with that said, man, I'm caught up like a lot of emotion right now. I want to start off with a poem, if that's okay with everybody.
Rivers, flowing with the blood of fallen soldiers that fell over because of shell cases that impacted the chest like boulders.
No.
Flowing with the blood of fallen soldiers that fell over because of shell cases that impacted the chest like boulders, knocking heads off of shoulders. The world is a wasteland, and it's a wasteland that freedom is something that I can't even taste, man, so I wait and see. More innocents lose their lives, women losing husbands, men losing their wives, and I wonder, why am I still alive? Lord, please answer me when people died at the hands of their own family members. I remember back when it wasn't all about the violence, but a mean backspin, and I wish I could bring those times back, my friend, but see, that's just a lost art. Some of us carry on the struggle, some just lost heart, and some were lost from the start. But see, this is my life, my vision, the things that I view, my trials and tribulations and the things that I've been through. So if the good die young, then why am I not taken? If the good die young, then why am I forsaken? See, my body is broken and blistered, my soul is aching. It's painstaking and back-breaking, but if we gotta push beyond the limits, beyond the limitations put on us by mental midgets, trying to grasp knowledge, alien to me wondering if I get it. See, the time is here and the here is now. And while the time is here, the frustration is seen upon your brow. And well, to understand me, look past my pain and fears. To understand me, look past my sweat and tears, and understand that I have the soul of Mega, Malcolm, and Martin. Letting you know that a revolution is starting, because I'm ready, willing, and able to go ahead and use this poem to rewrite every child's fable. And when they read it, they will learn because of us. We must teach the youth. If not, what happens when it's their turn? It's our concern, best believe, because of us, they must achieve. Because if we don't do something now, I see a land in the not so distant future that is desolate and barren, and the souls that dwell within it are hateful and uncaring. See, this is something that I want you to understand, because If we don't do something now, a few years from now, all we will have is a wasteland.
So now, I would like to call up a very special person who has been fighting for justice for a very long time. A good person. Please, feel the weight of him.
We got so many people like that in the crowd.
Yes.
This has been a very trying week for a lot of people in this country. The verdict in the George Zimmerman case is really a watershed in American history. Some people say they want to take us back 150 years. I'd like to take us back 157 years for just a minute. Back 1857. Is that right? Did I do the math right? 1857 was the date of another court decision. A man named Dred Scott, who was held in slavery, was brought from his owner from a slave state to a free state, and sued in court for his freedom, saying that since he didn't live in a slave state anymore, he was entitled to be free. And that case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decided that Dred Scott was still a slave and had to go back to be held in slavery, because it said that the black man in America has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. It became a very famous phrase, an example of how bad things were at one time in this country. But the Robert Zimmerman case brought that phrase back into reality again. Robert Zimmerman got off because he argued that he felt his life was in danger and he had to defend himself. But what about the right of Trayvon Martin to defend himself?
Right.
Trayvon Martin wasn't driving around a neighborhood with a gun. Trayvon Martin didn't get out of his vehicle after being told by the police to stay in his vehicle and not pursue. Trayvon Martin didn't walk up to anybody armed and threaten them. Trayvon Martin was just a kid going to the store to get a snack and coming home being followed by some light-skinned man in a vehicle who stops the vehicle and gets out and challenges him and is armed. And if Trayvon Martin was able to get in the first punch, like Zimmerman said, more power to him. Too bad he couldn't have knocked him flat out, unconscious. He would be alive today. That was his right of self-defense. He was being threatened. But Florida's stand your ground law doesn't stand your ground for everyone. It means white people can defend themselves if they think they're in danger, but black people cannot defend themselves if they are in danger. It means that Trayvon Martin had no rights that George Zimmerman was bound to respect. That's what the George Zimmerman decision means. We have gone back 157 years. I'm 64. To some of you that might be old, to me it doesn't seem that much time. My mother's 94. You put 94 and 64 together, that's 1 year before the Dred Scott decision. It's not that long ago that we had slavery in this country. And we still have it in the prisons. It was never abolished in the prisons. 13th Amendment says involuntary servitude will be abolished for everyone except those who are held as a result of being convicted of a crime. I'm paraphrasing on that one. Slavery exists legally in the prison systems. It's warm out here today. Thank goodness we got a little breeze and we're under the trees. There are 1,400 people sitting in Richmond City Jail right now where the temperature is at least 10 degrees hotter than it is here. If it's in the mid-90s here, it's over 100 degrees there, and it'll be over 100 degrees tomorrow and going into the next week. This is the summer in Richmond, and it's torture to be in the Richmond City Jail. Just ask that white lawyer from the West End who ran over a girl on a bicycle and is doing his time in Henrico County Jail, because they don't want him down here suffering like Richmonders do, like poor Richmonders do, 85% of whom are African American, and a growing number of women. The George Zimmerman decision is a watershed event, because if you cannot defend your life and the life of your family and your community, you have no rights. Some people like to say, oh, during segregation we had a more unified community. People took care of themselves more. They watched out for each other more. That's true. But that segregation was backed up not only by law, but by racist, terroristic violence. You got out of line, you got out of your community, you got on the wrong side of town after dark, and you were in deep trouble. Trayvon Martin was in deep trouble for walking home from a corner store. What do? We don't want to just talk about how bad things have gotten. What do? We wake up. That's the first thing. You know the old expression, free your mind and your ass will follow, pardon my French. But that's true. First we had to realize how bad shape we were in. So maybe in that sense they did us a little favor. We need to speak out about the sisters and brothers in the Richmond City Jail. We need to speak out about a young black mother taking care of 4 children and her mother who is dying and paralyzed in bed and working a full-time job, whose youngest son, Deshaun, had an illness that made it impossible for him to process food. And no matter how well she took care of him, how many times she fed him, how many times she took him to the doctors, he deteriorated to the point where he died. And the Richmond prosecutors charged her with murder, with neglect, and allowing her child to starve to death before the autopsy report was ever completed. And when the autopsy report came back and said that the cause of death was undetermined, they got a new person to review that autopsy report and give them the result that they wanted, that the child had died of neglect and starvation. Then they demonized this woman to the point where the community could have lost faith in her, until the NAACP and others gathered around her and built support and attended the trials and made it an issue. And she was allowed to take back the not guilty plea that she had entered as a result of being pressured by a court-appointed attorney. And she went to trial. And they still convicted her. And the only reason was because they said anybody should have known that their child was in danger and should have taken him to the hospital, which is probably true. Unless you have a 9th grade education and you've been brought up to believe that a doctor who's gone through medical school and has their own practice on Southside, funded by Medicaid, that their judgment is incorrect and your judgment is better than theirs. Some who were taking care of all their other children, but who missed the illness. And even when it was obvious to other people that that child should have been sent to the hospital, told the court, well, I didn't order hospitalization because Medicaid prefers to deal with these cases on an outpatient basis. Medicaid wouldn't pay for it. The doctor didn't order the treatment that was necessary. The child died, and the mother was charged with murder. The jury recommended 7 years for Ashley Williams. On Tuesday at 1 o'clock, Ms. Williams will go back into court. Monday at 1 o'clock, we'll go back into court in Richmond, and the judge will set the sentence. He cannot raise it from 7 years, but he can lower it or eliminate it. And we need to be in that courtroom. Ashley Williams has been the victim of a legal lynching. And if we were 150 years ago and we heard that a black woman was being lynched on the other side of town, we wouldn't go. We wouldn't gather ourselves together. We wouldn't pick up whatever tools were necessary to accomplish our task and go out there and stop that lynching. We have an opportunity to do that. on Monday at 1 o'clock at the John Marshall Courts building. Will you be there? Will you be there? Are you here to talk about something that happened weeks ago in Florida, or are you here to do something about what's going to happen on Monday in Richmond? Will you be there? We'll see you there. And we will also invite you to attend the next meeting of the community committee that's trying to stop a baseball stadium from being built on the site of the second largest slave trading district in the United States, Shockoe Bottom. Come to the William Byrd Community Center, 224 South Cherry Street, a walk from here, 7 o'clock, Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, and we will have a community meeting to continue the strategy to stop this stadium. We've made it an issue. You can't talk about a stadium now without talking about black history and what happened there so many years ago and how disrespectful it would be. Like putting a Walmart on Auschwitz prison. Like building a big box Sam's Club on Bunker Hill. But so much worse. We need to stop this. Because the same disrespect that said Trayvon Martin's life is not worth as much as George Zimmerman's is the same mentality that says the black history in Richmond is not worth as much as the profits of a handful of white developers being assisted, unfortunately, by our mayor. Please come out Monday at 1 o'clock, John Marshall Courts Building, 3rd floor. Defend Ashley Williams. Please come out Thursday to the community meeting to stop a stadium in Shockoe Bottom. Pick up a copy of the petition here that we are circulating. Collect names, turn it into Shakur's merchandise on 2nd Street. Be involved, stay involved, and let's win something. Thank you.
The way though, for what he said, and like he said, B, John Marshall Courthouse, 3rd floor, 1 p.m. this Monday. And now, I would like to bring forth Tamara Taylor. Please give it up for Tamara Taylor, who will be speaking.
Because I feel like the inequality has to end, and my way of speaking is through poetry. I started a blog a couple months ago called Vocalize RBA, and it's about what it says, vocalize. Like, by us coming together and speaking, we can make a change. We all have our art, we all have a voice, and so through this poem, I'm expressing everything I feel. Did Trayvon say anything as he lay dying on the floor? Did he have any last words, last pleas? Zimmerman says, the boy cried, "You got me." Paint the picture of a thief in the night. But what really were his last words, his last pleas, his last screams? Did his soul jump out of skin to reclaim victory? Selfish, bloodthirsty fools, cops they seem. Says the father told us it wasn't his boy who screamed. Did they find it in his silence? As his father had to recognize he would never hear his son's voice again. A boy of 17. A beautiful brown baby his mother carried, who she could now only hold in memory. Did Trayvon have any last words? And what would he say today? And what would that mean of me? If I wasn't black enough or rich enough or ever enough to scream and be heard and be recognized, what would that mean of me? Would the courtroom have room for my screams, for my pleas of being completely misunderstood? Hoodie, wearing hoodlum, suspicious, dark, dingy, black, dirty old me. What would America say about me? Would America hear my screams?
Von Lewis.
You know, it's my first time hearing about Ashley Williams. You know what I mean? It's sad to hear stuff like that because, you know, this justice system does a lot of people wrong. And it's sad that, to hear that somebody with that type of situation in life is going through that type of stuff. And I'm kind of moved by it. I'm also moved by the crowd out here right now, because a lot of people out here doing a lot of right things, and we need more of this in life, because if we don't have no unity amongst people, we can't get nowhere in life. So unity is real powerful. And thanks to Jamil for putting this together. I got a poem I did. It's called Time to Go. And it's talking about, kids dying young, because that's an issue. Trayvon Martin could have been me. It could have been my brother. It could have been your cousin, nephew. And it's sad that his situation ended the way it did. But let me just do this poem real quick. It's called Time to Go. I'm just a product of a sick world. Roll more blunts so we can party with the rich girls. And everybody blunt and getting money trying to live life. I'm just trying to chill, get my stomach and my head right. Yeah, right, if you think I don't know why these young kids live life the opposite of slow, and that means fast, they be hung up on the hype. I guess there's nothing left, so I just gotta write, and this is what I wrote. It's funny how things look different through the smoke. Another 16, no dream, no hope. Stuck up in the world full of rope, so he can just hang. And now we in the gang, so he making noise. Playboy, and it's over. And this is what the 16 said when it was over. After all, alcohol get pulled for the little homie who left behind a seed and another girl lonely, only to raise that seed so he can be everything she need plus more, until the cops come on the door with some bad news to make her fall to the floor. Situation sad, fell victim to a gun, and now she has neither, the father and the son. Time to go, y'all. Time to go. Thank y'all.
If a stadium is put into the bottom, it's going to be put on the burial ground, the slave burial ground. So much rich history in that burial ground. So, what is the city telling you? Please, anybody, what is the city telling you if they want to put a stadium on a burial ground?
It don't matter.
Do you want that to happen? Don't let it happen. Definitely. Right into City Hall. Go to City Hall. Let them know how you feel. Because if you don't let them know how you feel, they're going to put it there anyway. Send them letters. Have your family send in letters. Your friends. Have your friends call people to send it in. Do not let that stadium go in Shago Bottom. Can y'all do that? Thank you. Next, a poem. Please, true poet.
Said it seems like he was speaking in tongues. His voice was deep. Not in tone, but in his journey. One of the reasons why he was able to speak so freely, like Seeley, he was able to get past his childhood transgressions, to turn a negative into a positive and make a positive into a negative. See, who can understand the mountain when it speaks to the ocean, lakes, and rivers? I heard the echo of Arizona, blood spilling through the street like young man's dreams of wanting to be, like a young man's dream of wanting to be whatever. The price of Skittles is too high if liars have to be lost. See, he was born in the barrel of butcher knives, taught white lies, whispered sweet like the serpent, sexed Eve with the truth of divinity, twisted into a conjugal victory where the apes, monkeys, and baboons beat their chests with the blessings of Satan's kiss. Eternal bliss has always been the position of those rich in wealth, which love is left alone, where they lied in death, left only to be a memory forgotten 41 times in a New York state of mind where 51 was the real true goal. I suppose the scenario never changes, just the faces. See, protected by the blue that only protects their own, clicking heels and dreams of what seems to be a hideaway home. They scream out, go home. I say, I want to go home. I don't know where my home. Is this my home? America is my home. The verdict says that if you can't speak well, if you can't articulate yourself, that you're not credible. that you're not telling the truth. If your court ethics is not in the right atmosphere, that you're not credible. See, they say Rachel won't telling the truth. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. She was the last ones to hear Trayvon Martin's voice. Sean Bell's wife wished he would have made it home that night. Amadou Diablo's family wished he would have made it home that night. And the countless names that jumped off of the slave ships so that we could be standing here right now, today. The mothers that sacrificed and gave themselves to master so we could be sitting here today. They had a greater purpose in mind for us. So for us not to be aware and not to be outraged is a total disrespect to our ancestors. See, John Brown, they call him a revolutionary because he was fighting on our behalf. How many ever heard of David Walker's appeal? Powerful document. Assassinated. Just like Malcolm X. Just like Martin Luther King. See, stuff don't happen by chance, it happened by design. And if we believe that they just got killed by happen, they got killed by design because there was awakening in the mind. See, when Malcolm X went over in Africa, it wasn't that the fact that he learned that it was white Muslim. It was the fact that he started building with Haile Selassie, Ethiopia. If you know the history of Ethiopia, then you know what that platform stands for. So with that being said, I'm going to go into this poem. It's called Why Should I Be Ashamed? And I probably performed this poem a million times. It's never been written down. I created it off of memory. Why should I be ashamed of our love, our history, our pride? My existence is existence. Please listen to this true prophecy. My life ain't been that much Christmassy. The true endangered species. Before Martin Luther King's dream, it was a nightmare. Not on Elm Street, but on Richmond streets and Florida streets and New York streets. We was the hunted before America's most wanted. You wanted, you could get it. Yes, with twisting your thinking. The land of single homes, drug abuse, and drinking had you thinking it was going to be easy. Believe me, your mind is wicked. 100 years of lynching has changed my range of emotions like the ocean where millions have died just for a ride. And others, a noble sacrifice for their rights just to be free. Mentally, spiritually, you know what I mean? I guess not, because you have lost your backbone and your house has never been your homeland. Oh, Mother Africa, help us because we have lost our way from thee. Is it me or is the world going crazy with a band being tied in their minds to make them confused? Either way we lose. It's time to fly to the greatness of our ancestors. See, I hope you hear me. In fact, I hope you feel me, because the future is yours to mold by any means. Non-violent. I cried tears late at night thinking that Harriet Tubman's fight for something that sounds right. Freedom. I love you from your hair follicles to your toenails. You are my ISIS, the focus that keeps me going in this crisis. I love you. I miss you. You see, Eve, she was an independent woman, but kindred on the straight. So that I can live today, jumping and thinking of the now, picking up the thinking of the heathen child. Is this not my mother Africa? The riches of the rich are all natural. She didn't have to switch her thinking for resolution, because now it's time for a revolution in the streets where society never sleeps. Whatever happened to words like family and community and unity? I guess it's non-existent. You got us thinking being black is all about the hog maws, collard greens, and the fried chicken. See, Willie Lynch did his job. When are we going to do ours? And yes, my feelings for you are harder and harder to let go. Don't go. You see, it was the Indians got tricked by the Pilgrims. Or were they Indians? Black, indigenous like you and me. In the art of war, it says that you have to think like your enemy, not become your enemy. Because what good would that do if you whipping me harder than my students? Running around talking about you Malcolm X, but you more like Charles Broccoli, pro-black, but sleeping with the enemy now. How can you be a friend of me? You know what stood out the most to me is when Q said, give us free. Give us free. Rosa Parks set the stage. The bomb and the four little girls set the race. Malcolm X gave them a name. Don't be ashamed. This is the history. If the light came from the dark, doesn't that make the dark the essence of the truth? That the light manifested economics was the reason then and the reason now. Just look around. A stolen legacy. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. It was the streets that taught me the devil's lesson. My birth was the beginning. Half amazing, half crazy like society made me. Thank you.
Very committed to how we can be active in our community. We are still holding that commitment today, and I want to share with you that since Sunday, we have created a Facebook page called RVA On Call Action Brigade. This is not about going to more meetings. This is about a rapid response to get in where we fit in. I was just mentioning to Anna, I'm going to do an action in that page for Monday. So it's about really making sure that we have information about different things going on in the city, that we learn how to be more active in our representative democracy, call it whatever, title, democracy, communism, socialism, whatever ism. We are here in the United States, right here, right now, Richmond, Gabriel City, and we need to be about educating and lifting our people into a better quality of life and making sure that we are effective in what we're doing. So the email address for folks that want to take that down is RVA On Call Action @gmail.com. So if you have any kind of information that you wanted us to share about different events around the city that you need people to be in attendance, then you can send an email to that and or post on the Facebook page. So we're going to do a Google group as well. So it's kind of based in cyberspace. But when we see people, and folks, just share, because we want to just really try to change the dynamic in terms of how we include people in reclaiming our communities. Whatever that means to you. We want to see more people